7 of our London Dark game. Set in a post-purge version of London, most of the established kindred are dead, slain in the Operation Antigen, or Second Inquisition as the kindred call it, purge. Those kindred that remain under the guidance of Seth and Adrian have organised themselves into a slightly more modern model of a kindred society. And that all seems to have been going fairly well up until now. There's been a few little border skirmishes, a few little discussions and disagreements, things like that. Nothing that hasn't been able to be handled. A new director, for such is the title they've given the head of their organisation, has been chosen. When last we left our protagonists, they had been invited to a social function held by the Ministry, or as I like to know them, the artists formerly known as Setites. The owners of a club that used to belong to a coterie member, a coterie mate of Seth's and Adrian's, renamed the Nova Club, unless I've got that name wrong. Enigma Club. I know I was going to get the name wrong. There we go. The Enigma Club. The Ministry have bought it out, and they floated the idea past Seth and Adrian that they were planning to host a small function, just as more of a sort of social get-together for various kindred, rather than a sort of business meeting of any sort. Adrian suggested to them that perhaps they should invite some of the unaligned and younger kindred to the meeting, which they did, and it was just a little social, everyone getting to know each other, chatting. Seth and Adrian talked to a number of the people there. As the evening was drawing to a close, however, a young woman, for there were many mortals thronging the neon and music pumping filled halls of the club, a young woman made her way towards Adrian and gave him a message that she had been sent to find him by Alex Resnick, a figure rising like a shadowy spectre from Adrian's past. And having given her message, the woman's skin, muscle, bone, sinew and very blood began to peel away from the brittle frame of her skeleton like a macabre flower shedding its petals, blood, skin and viscera falling to the floor before the entire body collapsed under the weight of gravity. Thanks to the quick thinking of Seth, Adrian and the Ministry, they were able to hide any sight of this deed from the other mortals who were present, although the Ministry made it clear in no uncertain terms that they consider this a grievous violation of their haven, their workplace, their home. 2 weeks have passed since that event, and word has spread on the kindred grapevine of this shocking deed. Whispers of the Sabbat, the kindred bogeymen who have long been absent from the kindred scene for reasons mostly unknown, perhaps known to a few who can say, but people now start to whisper maybe they've returned. And if so, what does that mean for this fledgling society? Can it withstand the pressure of these evil and kindred who seemingly care nothing for the lives of mortals? Given that one of the cruxes of this new society has been preserving what remains of the masquerade and keeping a low profile so that Operation Antigen's axe does not fall upon the heads of the remaining kindred. So this is where we find ourselves at the start of the session. As I say, 2 weeks have passed. The kindred are starting to look a little nervous in London. No sort of outright action has yet been taken. No one has started to act out against anyone, but there is a palpable air of tension amongst kindred society, and many kindred had started to become a little more relaxed and started to get used to the new way of working, the new kindred society, the establishment of the kindred free action zone, a hunting ground effectively that belonged to no one but that all were responsible for. Whereas now kindred lock their doors a little tighter, they seem to be only moving around in small numbers. Younger kindred seem a little bit afraid to step out onto the streets on their own. As we begin the session, the date is the 15th of April 2015. It is a Wednesday. We begin, as we often do, with our protagonists awaking for the evening. So before we go further, can I ask each of you to make me a rouse roll, please? Okay, you are both fine. So you wake up in the evening to sort of like speed things along. I'm going to assume that you guys have met up in the shopping centre, which seems to have become your sort of de facto meeting place, because there's a lot of people around, but everyone's sort of getting on with their own business. No one pays you any great mind. It's lit by fluorescent lights, so you don't have to worry overly much about putting on the blush of health to hide you from mortal sight. So, we'll begin with the two of you. What sort of place would you like to meet at in the shopping centre, Seth and Adrian?
Do you want to pick Adrian? I think Seth's picked the spot a couple of times because he was going out to buy clothes and whatnot before.
Oh man, I don't know. Because I think it's funny. I think it should be the food court.
Yeah, so we're nursing a couple of. I think Seth would go out of his way to like I will buy food. So Seth has got a portion of fish and chips, and like a no, just fish and chips. Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. You're probably not the only person who's eating fish and chips. Obviously, you're not eating them, but appearances are important.
Yeah, just toying with it.
Look, man, I have to ask, isn't it more suspicious to like get food that you don't eat than it is to not order anything?
Well, I guess depends on if you actually leave it entirely untouched. I thought before we go, I'm actually gonna, load up, and then when we exit, I'm gonna find an alley.
Sorry, I asked.
No, it's not great, but I'm doing it anyway. It's actually probably one of the grossest things there is.
Yeah.
Have you tried eating since,
Haven't even thought about it.
Yeah. I wouldn't try. It's bad. It's real terrible. I've tried all kinds. It doesn't matter.
Right, I'll take your word for it, man.
Yep. So anyway, when we're good to go, I'm gonna stuff this fish in my cheek here, and then we're gonna hurry the fuck outside because it already tastes bad in my mouth, and I haven't even eaten it yet. I say as I sort of smudged a couple of the chips in like mustard. It's like
Yep, no problems. So as you're making your chat, you're eating your food, you're remarking on the people moving around and how eating works or rather doesn't work. for yourselves, given your present condition. You can just hear sort of, obviously there's numerous shops and sort of walkways and courts sort of spread about. As you're sort of eating, you can hear a fairly loud voice. It's got almost like a Greek or sort of like Cypriot lilt to it. And you can hear what appears to be a female voice shouting from down one of the walkways. If you look in that direction, you can see a sort of a middle-aged woman, sort of young middle-aged, sort of stood outside what looks to be a fairly new shop front. She's a small woman, olive complexion, brunette hair. You see she stood outside what appears to be a hairdresser's. There's a billboard outside the front. It all looks fairly new. You can actually see there's a sign that says sort of recently opened, like newly opened. And this woman appears to be sort of basically trying to scare up some business, and she's basically offering sort of 50% off haircuts. And she's sort of generally sort of like shouting out about the services that a shop offers to the people walking past.
Okay.
So eventually, as you continue talking, the conversation swings around to, what are you going to do about Alex Resnick, the apparent perpetrator of this crimson message that he sent you via way of a mortal?
Right. So we need to kill him. By the way. Good. We're in agreement then. Yeah.
And I think I'm of two minds as to what would be the best way. Because it would be good to make a statement, but it would be better, I think, for him to go away and no one to hear from him again.
As you shift slightly in your seat, Seth is just sort of leaning over the table to, in hushed tones, discuss this with Adrian. You obviously like shift your feet around as you're sort of moving your chair, and you hear like a rustling sound from under the table, like a without the loud bang at the end of it.
Okay, I'll So I probably have like a dinky plastic fork to go in my thing. So I'll drag one of the potatoes like real quick into my lap and say, "Oh, sorry," and I'll lean down and I'll swap the plastic fork into an ice pick grip, and I'll just look under the chair. That is there.
Okay. That is absolutely fine. So as you will look under the table, you see what appears to be a newspaper. You can see the date on the corner of it. It's today's date, probably the early morning edition. It looks like obviously someone was reading it and they've just like chucked it down under the table. And I've shown you the handout for that.
Okay, so before all that, like before I get into that, so I look down, I see, oh, it's a paper, and if I immediately look back up, is there even a remote chance to see like who might have been traversing close enough to do that?
What, to have thrown a paper under the table?
Yeah.
No, you think the paper was probably there when you guys arrived. You maybe not noticed it.
So that's it. So basically confirming that, oh, it was me making the noise, not someone else.
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
throwing
look
it
like,
in there.
It doesn't look like anyone else is near enough. You think you've probably just like, as you moved your feet, you've just like kicked the paper a little bit and just scuffed the edges of it.
Yeah. So I'll put the fork back into the dish and I'll get the paper out. Just taking some of the absolutely inefficient napkins that you get from places like
Yeah,
this,
the
and
wafer thin ones.
I'll just move the grease around on my my trousers.
Yeah, as you rightly suspected, I mean, it's almost sort of supernatural how bad the napkins at your sort of like your food court store are. And as you say, rather than like having any absorbent properties and sort of absorbing any of the grease, they merely seem to sort of thin it out by like smearing it around a little.
It's almost like plastic.
Indeed,
Okay, so what do we have here? So this is the Barking Dagenham Herald.
that's correct.
Okay. Oh, I remembered the name. So, yesterday evening, a local councillor named Carmen Fletcher was unfortunately taken severely ill from her place of employment at the Gable Court Care Home. According to our sources, Miss Fletcher, who has been working at the home for a number of years, is severely ill in a local hospital. Her condition has not been made public, but it is believed that there is no danger of contagion to people who have been in contact with her. Okay, so
The rest of the story just sort of like
yeah,
rambles
yeah,
on and doesn't amount to much.
it spirals out
Yeah.
from that point. But I'll put it on the table that we share with Adrian. I'll sort of slide it over to him so he can read, and
Huh, what
yeah,
happened?
I'll go back to poking at my my dish.
Huh. We can't get sick, right?
As far as I understand, it's not a problem per se, but, and I
Oh,
think it's a fairly big but, um, if like contamination is still a thing. So let's say
right.
you have contaminated blood, you uh, have it on your, after like a surgery, you have it on your gloves or whatever. That's still bad if you go touching things with those gloves. So much the same with us, I think. So if like that's something to keep in mind with eating.
Right, right. But yeah, Miss Fletcher. She, I don't know, she seemed like she'd be more careful than that to get sick, and well, she also didn't seem to want to have much to do with our society.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is still very disturbing news.
And indeed, as you're sort of like flicking through the newspaper as you're talking, you can see there is a sort of blurry, sort of slightly like pixelated, but sort of it's obviously been blown up from a larger photo picture of Miss Fletcher sort of at the bottom of the piece, and also I'll share to you the picture of Carmen Fletcher. She looks very much as you remember her, Adrian, from when you last saw her. Although when you saw her previously, she was quite a happy, sort of seemed to be enjoying her work, thought she was doing something worthwhile, but like I say, didn't want to be involved in kindred affairs. Whereas in the picture that's in the paper, although it's blown up and slightly sort of hazy as such things are, she looks a little bit overworked, a little bit sort of hurried, but you can't
So,
really see any details. It's quite blurry.
she was a Malkavian, right? Not a Thin Blood?
That's
Oh, I
correct.
don't.
That's certainly what she told you.
Right. Um, so I kind of like look. Was she not feeding properly? Because what's the lack of sleep to a vampire?
So what do you think is going on here?
I don't know. I think that this might not be an accurate story.
Yep. Something is probably not accurate, whether it's the story or the story that we knew from before.
And maybe.
So
No.
it says here that she's in hospital.
Might have to go check on her. Yeah, and like you say, infecting the kine with disease is just going to bring attention. It's going to reflect badly on us. So, if there is a, sorry, I think my sire told me there was a word for people like that, but I have no idea.
Yeah, they have whole lexicons for this kind of thing, as far as I understand.
Yeah, but
Or they used to anyway, but then I guess those got burned as well.
Yeah. And one of the infected. Yeah, I don't know what to call them. Anyway, I don't know. Yeah, one of the infected will just cause all sorts of problems for our society.
Yeah, which is why if you insist on eating unhealthily, let's say, you take precautions afterwards. I mean, everyone can go buy bleach.
Yes. Anyway.
So do you want to go there tonight?
Yes, that'd be a good place to head after we discuss what to do about Alexander. So, yes, you say it might be good for him to just disappear. I actually disagree. I think we should make an example out of them. I think, given that our society is fairly new, it actually might be quite prudent to establish them as a um, existential threat to our organization and then deal with them.
Tie the organization together like a rug ties a room together, that kind of thing.
Yes, exactly.
So yeah, that was my sort of second option, I guess. The fact that I picked disappearance as the first one speaks more to my own preference than what might be best for the community, I guess.
Oh,
which I'm fine with your suggestion there.
Well, yeah, your suggestion is certainly safer, but I don't know. I'm just thinking long term here.
Yeah, and like there will become a time when my caution is not beneficial to everyone in our circles. That's just a fact, because that's just the way it goes. I come from that place, and we're more in it now than ever before. And while it does serve me, we're trying to do something different here, which I recognize, but it's going to take some time to develop the instincts for this.
Yes, and I'm not 100% confident in my way of doing things either, but we do have to make a decision.
Yeah. And I'm like, whatever that was, and I want to know what it is to understand what and how, but it's something that we need to contain, because if there's more of this out there, it's very hard for us to try and do what we are trying to do. If
Yes,
again,
exactly.
whatever that is, if someone can just do that, it doesn't matter how many committees we set up and how many votes we hold.
Yes, in fact, we could view this as the first real test of our organization's strength. Um, I must ask, do we know what that was?
I have absolutely no idea.
It's not your kind of thing.
Okay, I think I know what you're referring to, and I don't think so. It's whatever thing might be my thing. It is not that at all. I don't understand. That was bad movie SFX, except real, and I've never heard of or seen that before.
As you're having this conversation, your phone beeps, Adrian, that you've received a text message playing whatever ringtone you've assigned to texts, maybe like the Rocky theme tune or something similar.
No, it's just a sudden scream.
Okay, so you sat there talking, and from like slightly muffled from inside Adrian's pocket, you just go, "Ew!"
I really need to change that ringtone. I say as I take that out.
You know, a couple of people have been like, who were like sitting nearby, so eating their food, like,
yeah, and as they look to see like what's going on, Adrian goes for the phone like, I really need to change that. Seth is going to turn to these people. I was like, it's fine, and I will highlight that I do have the obvious predator thing, so
okay, which
probably unpleasant to them.
I'm going to say, can you make me a manipulation intimidation roll? And I'm going to give you a 1 dice bonus because of your obvious predator dealio.
Yeah, and actually, I think because it affects social stuff. But let me.
Yeah, that's fine. For free to
bring it up here. Yeah, it affects social stuff, but I do think it might be obvious predator. Here we go. Nope, that's not it. Okay, what are you doing, PDF? This isn't what I wanted.
Well, if you can't find it, like I say, we'll just go with the 1 dice extra, and we'll take it from there. Just to save time.
Yeah. So that was manipulation?
It's manipulation intimidation with a 1 dice bonus.
Yeah. There we go. 1. Budink.
Okay, yes, so as a few people are looking over, as this scream comes out of Adrian's pocket, and you're like, it's fine. You know, it's a couple of people sort of like suddenly become fascinated with the contents of their food in front of themselves and are very pointedly like not looking at you and are slightly trying to sort of like turn away as they're
really good, this fish and chips. I will eat it now.
Yeah, a few people like obviously like finish their food a lot more rapidly than they were doing previously and sort of leave.
Yeah, I really need to change that ringtone.
Yeah, I quite like it.
Okay, so you look at your phone, Adrian, and you see that it's a text from Valerie Frost of the Ministry. And she says she's organised a meeting for 2 hours' time for this evening with the director to discuss the, she uses the word, assault on her coteries haven as witnesses to the incident. She would be appreciative if you could attend. She says the meeting's to be held at the Director's Haven.
I like show Seth the text, and I assume it like starts to glitching as I kind of show it to him, and I'm like, oh right, yeah, there's a meeting at the director's place. I think the ministry is going to try to.
Yeah, and in fact, as you hold your phone like sort of close to Seth's orbit, it does start glitching, and you basically get another 6 copies of the same text message. So like your phone's like as you like hold it out.
Okay.
I put it on vibrate.
I guess we better go.
Yep.
As you move it away from Seth, like the screen sort of stops glitching. You see in your inbox you've got like 6 copies of the same text.
Yeah, I definitely change it to vibrate.
No problems. Okay, so what's the plan, guys?
Alright. Okay. Brief discussion before we go in there. I think we should try to emphasize the threat. Yeah, the threat to the organization as a whole that's being done here. And yeah, try to set up like some sort of blood hunt or something where we just anything where like we're all teaming up together to fight this thing, or if there's some like prestige in doing so.
Yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like the kind of thing that might create a little bit of common spirit,
Solidarity.
I guess. Yeah. It's worth a try anyway. Try to salvage something out of this. Because if this is the thing, right? If someone can just do this over time, it's going to be a net negative anyway.
Yes. One thing that worries me is potentially what if they're just very powerful and they don't need to worry about, you know, the rest of us vampires, the rest of us kindred.
I don't know. That's something that I haven't really been thinking about too much.
All this stuff just sort of bothers me. There are so many out there with like bizarre powers. It's hard to feel safe.
And the thing is as well, if we come upon such a person, if whatever this turns out to be, if it's beyond us, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't. There's no fallback to anything, I guess.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I guess it's you. Yeah. We just have to win. that's what it is. We have to win because there's no way we lose and get to keep going.
All right. Yeah, you're right. It's how yeah, it is that simple. We just need to win.
Yeah, how that happens, I do not fucking know, but whatever it is, we're gonna need to figure it out.
All right, let's do this. Let's win.
Okay, so what's your next move?
We win.
John, what do we roll for winning?
Yeah.
That's a roll of effort plus winning.
Um.
You roll your
Yeah, I have
second?
a specialty in winning.
Yeah, I've taken the specialty in
Actually,
triumph.
actually, I have tiger blood, so I believe that's a bonus.
Oh, that should be a bonus.
Okay, so in the short term, what's the next move?
Um. I guess we can just head there. I mean, we'll take Seth outside to vomit.
Yeah, so it's a case of like Seth stuffing his cheeks like a chipmunk at the end, and just trying to make it like be cool with it, and just leave the plate kind of like half scavenged, and then get outside and not talk or open his mouth, and then into the alleyway and. Bleh.
Yeah, I still think this is a lot more conspicuous than just not ordering anything.
Quite possibly. I'm just seeing if I can find what the rules are on eating stuff.
Yeah, he's not eating. He's not putting anything down. Which is
All right, you
where-
just start stuffing it in your cheeks.
yeah,
And like,
yeah. It's like I'm just carrying it in my mouth.
that's absolutely fine then. Yes,
It's still not good. Like it's a bad place, but
you walk out the back in the alleyway and you're disgorging, for want of a better word, like some sort of kindred hamster, sort of emptying your cheeks of all this food you've like. So you sort of walked out like into the alleyway. Okay. At this point, can you roll me a D50, please, sir? Okay, so as you're in the alleyway, Adrian and Seth, you're just emptying this food out of yourself. A young man who's like carrying a satchel like over his shoulder. You can just see like the top of some books poking out of it. He's just like starting to walk down the alley, the other end of the alleyway. As you're like, ugh. And as he sort of like draws level, he looks genuinely concerned, and he's like, "You all right, mate?"
Yeah, he's fine. He had something to eat.
He's like, "Wow, well, yeah, I can see that." He's like, he pulls out like a fairly old-fashioned like mobile phone, and he's like, "Do you need me to like call someone or?"
No, I think he'll be fine.
All right, okay, well, you look after yourself, and he puts his mobile away, and he walks down the alleyway and disappears from sight. You wait.
Definitely more conspicuous.
You says Adrian, as you wait for a few moments to be sure that the person's gone. No one else appears in the alleyway. There's a light sort of rain starting to fall. The sort of asphalt and concrete slabs of the street and the road surface at the end of the alleyway soon become slick with the damp that's falling from the sky. It's a fairly overcast night, as you might expect. You can see the dull amber glow of various street lamps sort of placed at regular intervals along the roads that sort of cast everything in this strange sort of burnt umber coloured light. People have just started to like come out for the evening. Obviously it's not a weekend, so you're not getting like the party crowd out, but obviously there's people who work nights, there's people going to like shops and stuff like that, people hurrying home from work. So there's a few people around, but it's not crowded. and you're tucked away in this little alleyway at the moment. What do you want to do?
Alright.
So, head on.
Yeah, are you ready to head out to the meeting?
Okay, so knowing that it's being held at Director Dawson's Haven, which is the Rippleside Cemetery, which you're both very familiar with, having been there several times previous, you head there. You're quickly sort of shown in by... You notice as you sort of go in that Zafia appears to have sort of increased her like stable of people who are sort of like watching over the cemetery, but you're pretty much like shown straight in. You pole up to the gate, the wrought iron gates around the cemetery and the mortuary, and you're pretty much shown straight in. So whether you don't recognise the guy on the gate, but whether she's given her sort of her employees, for want of a better term, like descriptions of who to let in, you're not really sure. But as soon as you walk up, you're pretty much escorted up to the door of the little funeral parlour that's her actual haven, past the rows of solemn angel statues and the jagged shapes of gravestones jutting out of the ground, so like rocky teeth. You're showing up. Sorry, go ahead.
Can I tell anything about the people that have been hired? Like, do they seem like regular mercenaries, or
it looks to be a young man wearing like a night security guard's uniform. He's got one of those big sort of like mag-light torches that he's like using to like shine his way and see his way through the graveyard as he's escorting you. Aside from that, he doesn't look remarkable. He's not like bulging muscles and toting a weapon or anything.
right? Does he look like he's part of a particular security firm?
Not as far as you can see. He's just wearing like a plain sort of like dark navy blue uniform.
Okay, sure. Interesting.
You're escorted up to the door and you're shown in. As you get to the door, you can hear the sound of raised voices from inside, and as the door opens, the slightly muffled voice, muffled by the thick wood of the door, resolves itself into the quite sort of angry voice of Valerie Frost, saying, well, this is a clear breach of any standard of etiquette you would care to mention, Director. After all, had it not been for the quick thinking of Mr. Morgan and Mr. Resnick, as well as my coterie, it would have been a gratuitous breach of the masquerade, and I see it as tantamount to an assault on the haven of myself and my coterie. After all we were trying to do is organise a social to try and make sure everyone was on an even footing and that things with this new society ran as smoothly as they... And then she cuts off as she notices the two of you have entered. You can see she's sat on one of these sort of like faux leather armchairs. There's a little sort of low lying like coffee table. Zafia wearing a sort of stark sort of ornamental less dress in black is sat there. She has the very sort of cadaverous like skull like look of her face that you've become accustomed to. She has a typical solemn expression and she's nodding at various intervals as Valerie Frost is unburdening herself. She likewise turns to look at the two of you as the door opens, and she says, good, I'm glad you could both make it. Miss Frost told me that she'd asked you to come here as witnesses to the event that occurred. If you could you please... I've heard Miss Frost's side of the story. And Valerie starts to say something like, sort of with a slight look of outrage on her face, at which point Sophia just like holds her hand up to silence her and then says, I meant nothing by that. I simply wish to get a rounded picture of what occurred. And she looks back to the two of you and says, in your own words, could you please tell me what occurred?
Sure. So we were at the little soiree that Miss Frost was kind enough to invite us to. I received a. Did I receive a note? I received a note, right? Yeah. I received a note that was given to a person. They appeared. I'm not an expert on these matters, but they appeared to be under some sort of spell or trance. Their skin then began to slowly peel. We managed to get them to a bathroom in time and alert the local security under the ministry's employ before anything unfortunate happened. But the messenger is dead.
At which point, Valerie says, yes, I can assure you of that, but I have bought you evidence to show you what we did with it. She takes out some like old style photographs, like when you had to like go and get them developed at like a pharmacy.
Yeah.
The sort of like the rectangular ones. She takes out some of those and puts them on the table between you all, and you can see they're obviously pictures that have been taken whilst the ministry were like clearing away the body, and it just shows like the body parts and stuff like that. Valerie says, there, you can see exactly what happened. Zephyr starts to say something, but Valerie just sort of like continues and says, look, I developed these photos myself. No one else has seen them. The negatives have been destroyed. After we finished here, I will destroy these photos, so you don't need to worry about the security of that. But I wanted to have some actual evidence to show you rather than just our word.
And I look over and glance at the photos.
Yeah, you see the bloody obviously there's no pictures of the woman actually like falling to pieces. It's just like the pile of viscera, flesh, muscle and bone that was the end result. And you can see sort of like, as you look through like a few of these pictures, there's like 4 or 5 of them, you can see basically a couple of the members of the ministry sort of like, and they're like security people, like basically putting all of this into like bags. So they're obviously taken during the cleanup.
So is this in the bathroom?
No, it's after they'd sort of like scooped it up and sort of like taken it away for disposal.
Well,
the first one is in the bathroom. Yeah.
Well, I point to the one in the bathroom. Like, well, I can confirm it happened here, and as the rest, this does seem consistent with the damage we saw.
At which point, Sophia says, "I take it then these images are no longer required." Valerie just shakes her head. At which point, Sophia holds a hand, sort of hovering over the photographs, and the paper begins to curl and peel. The laminate peeling off it as though the paperwork is like rapidly aging, almost like a stop motion movie before your eyes, until all that's left is a small pile of dust on the table. And you say there are no copies or reproductions of these, Miss Frost. No, of course not. I developed them myself, and I destroyed the negatives as soon as I'd taken these prints. Good, at least we don't have to worry about that, says Zephyr. It is clear to me, she continues, that whoever perpetrated this crime has no regard for the rules that we have attempted to establish, and seemingly no concern for the looming threat that such activities may bring crashing down upon all of our heads. And I do not believe that is something we can allow under any circumstances, but certainly not present ones. Adrian, Miss Frost tells me that you have some knowledge of the person who committed this act.
Yeah, they may have been someone that I knew in mortal life.
Very well. What can you tell us about them? Leave nothing out.
Very well. as you command, Director. They, yeah, they are my father.
She
Um,
raises an eyebrow when you say that.
yeah. Um, I begin to like just tell the story of like how I how I like grew up in a abusive home essentially, and he may have been like a ghoul potentially, although I never like confirmed anything and didn't even know if they were alive until then, until recently.
She nods. So do you believe this
Um,
person may have become kindred after you lost
yeah,
touch with them? I see.
yes.
Well, much as it pains me to admit it, the abilities that were displayed, although I'm not familiar with this exact ability, the the incident that you described, the state of the unfortunate mortal, would seem to suggest a power that I have heard of that was believed to have been possessed by one of the clans that pledged themselves to the Sabbat.
Is this not blood sorcery?
I do not believe so. I do not know the exact details, but I've heard that there was a clan of flesh warpers who pledged their allegiance to the Sabbat, who are capable of transmuting and warping flesh using the powers of their own blood.
Huh. How horrifying.
Indeed, it is. Given the Sabbat's seeming disappearance, I had hoped it was not a power I would have to bear witness to.
Right. So this doesn't require the sort of forgive me, mysticism that I have witnessed some of you types use. It's they could warp flesh as easily as I could. Um, no, possess the strength of 10 men.
I do not know whether any sorcerer's component was involved. I've heard rumours that some of their number did practice a fell form of blood magic, but also that lesser members of their clan were able to achieve horrifying results without the aid of sorcery.
Huh. Interesting.
Would you be able to furnish us with a description of this Alexander Resnick as far as you recall it? Although I
Uh,
fear it will do little good if he truly is one of the flesh warpers, since they can, from what I have heard, they can change their appearance.
uh, wait, really?
Indeed.
Is it possible that I've met them and haven't realized?
Whilst I am not familiar with all the permutations of their abilities, it is certainly possible.
I don't like that. Okay, yeah, sure. Here's a physical description of them.
She writes it. She pulls a piece of paper out and a pen and writes it down. She says, I will have this circulated to as many kindred as possible via the channels that were established, and will warn them to be on the lookout for this kindred. I will also make it known that this person is to be considered extremely dangerous, and if at all possible should not be approached, and that they should be considered a threat to our society's very existence.
Um, So based on what she said, is that just like I'm declaring this person an enemy, but I'm taking no direct action, or
That certainly seems to be what she's suggesting at the moment.
um, okay, might I this was an unprovoked attack on one of a public holding. I'm kind of worried that if we don't take like a more proactive step to deal with them, then next we might be so lucky when they next try to escalate and capture our attention.
I agree, says Zephyr. However, given the relative dearth of hard information that we have at the present, it would be difficult to deputize a group of kindred to pursue this person, since we don't know anything about where their haven is, nor possibly even what they look like now.
Oh, that's fair enough.
The unfortunate thing with these, this sort of terror tactic, is that the person mounting the assault can strike quickly and disappear into the shadows.
Yes.
Of course, if either of you have any suggestions.
I look to Seth.
We have one lead, which pulling on it might be a two-way street, whereby we could try and track the person who came to the club. But the means to do so would probably bring the attention of mortal authorities on this as well. I don't currently have any other ideas for this because we don't have a lot of information. But that's something we could do. We could try and trace this woman and work from there, but would involve other people.
Well, if you are willing to undertake this investigation, I will happily back you with all the power that my current position has to offer.
Yes, that does sound good.
Very well, then I will also let it be known, as well as circulating this description of this person, that the two of you are acting as direct agents of myself in this regard, and that all kindred should give you whatever assistance is requested.
Sounds
Thank
acceptable.
you.
The only other suggestion I have to make, which may help you in your endeavour, and I hesitate to make it as a suggestion. I would not advise using it unless it is absolutely necessary. But and she gets a slight look of distaste on her face, but my clansman, Caleb Goodman, has abilities as a hunter of our kind, and has hunted kindred before.
How come? To what end?
In the in the days of the Camarilla, he was, again she gets this look of distaste on her face, he was a troubleshooter of sorts. He would wander from domain to domain, offering his services and those of his companions in tracking down various kindred in return for favours, equipment, resources, whatever they required at the time. However, his help always comes with a price, and it is often a steep one. That is why I hesitate to recommend him as a first port of call.
What do you mean by steep price? Like financially?
Perhaps I have never truly understood his motives for doing what he does. It is one of the number of things that we disagree on.
I kind of don't know what to say, how to interpret that.
She takes out from the inside her pocket of a jacket that's on the chair behind her a small card and slides it across the table towards you, Adrian and Seth. You see in biro, in like pen on the card, is written a mobile number, and says if you need to, you can use that to contact him. But as I say, I would not advise doing it unless other avenues have been exhausted.
We'll see about that then.
Is there anyone else who you think might have unique skills?
None that I can immediately think of.
Okay.
Do we... I am new at this. Is there a piece of mysticism that might be leveraged here to some capacity to find this person?
Perhaps if we had something belonging to them, that would be possible. To make it very simple, our blood magic works on a theory of correspondences. Objects that have an emotional link or a resonance to a person can be used to gain insight and perhaps even power over them if the link is strong enough.
I turn to Adrian and say, if we reach far back enough in time, could we dig up something that might fit the bill?
Okay, we have two options here, it seems. One, we could try the note, but it seems like that wouldn't be strong enough. Two, we could go back to that house.
That's what I was thinking. If there's something that we could find from a longer time ago, rather than the note that we have.
At which point, Valerie Frost has been sort of like looking quite thoughtful while all this conversation's been going on, and says, "You are missing one obvious thing that's connected to this person," and she points at Adrian.
Yeah, I guess. I actually don't know how that works. So, is my blood, is that my mortal blood would be connected to him? But now I might not have gotten the full picture, but I'm told that it's been my blood has been replaced with Vitae?
Zafir nods and says, Adrian is correct. Whilst once he may have shared blood ties with this person, the embrace changes that. And if this person has also been embraced since then, the link between them, if it existed at all, would be so faint as to make any working extremely difficult.
Adrian kind of is like, doesn't quite get this, but he does like the idea that they're not really linked even by blood anymore.
Is there anything else you require of me, Seth, Adrian, before you begin your investigations?
Do we have your permission to engage with this person, or once found, should we report back to you?
I would suggest, given that we don't know the strength of this person, that if you locate them, we should then attempt to muster a capable group of kindred who can en masse try to intercept this person with support from kindred who are capable of swaying mortal emotions and perhaps memories in case it is necessary to cover up our activities.
Right, so find them first, then a proper blood hunt?
Indeed, we do have kindred who are capable in that regard, but like any weapon, we must have a target before we can use it.
Alright. Makes sense to me.
At which point Valerie says, well, of course, any help I can give, or myself or the other members of my coterie, we will of course give. However, we shall be taking all efforts to fortify our communal haven, to protect it from in case there are any further attacks. But so if you have no further need of me, I'd like to go and start making those arrangements. But, and Zafir sort of waves her away as she gets up to leave. Zafir then sort of half turns back towards Seth and Adrian and says, but of course, if you do need anything from either myself or any other members of my coterie, please, you have our contact details. Please don't hesitate to ask. After all, as well as this being an assault on your own personage, Adrian, it was also an assault on our clan as a whole, such as it is in this city. And
well, now that we're all members of the same organization, an assault on any one of us should be taken as an assault on all of us.
Yes, you're quite right. And obviously we have not forgotten, and I certainly haven't forgotten, that it was the quick actions of yourself and Seth that prevented this from becoming a far greater situation. So if you do need anything from us, please do not hesitate to ask. At which point she nods at everyone present and she leaves.
Alright.
Okay.
Well, I think we should get to it, Seth.
Yeah. Do you want to go to the house, or shall we go to the hospital?
I guess we can step to the hospital. I do want to find out what happened. This might be some sort of developing paranoia, but I'm wondering if this is slightly connected.
To be honest, there's something wrong about this that I cannot place at all, so it might as well be connected for all we know. I wouldn't discount it because something something has gone sideways with this hospital situation, which just doesn't add up. So
Indeed.
Okay, so are you guys heading to Barking and Dagenham General Hospital?
I believe
Yep.
How are you planning on getting there? Are you walking? Are you getting a cab?
Let's get an Uber.
Yeah, not a problem. You call an Uber. One turns up. There's quite a there's quite a sort of like muscly, sort of like well built sort of guy driving a almost like sort of like, you know, like your American sort of like muscle cars, like one of those. So he pulls up. You've seen the like little app like telling you he's on his way. He pulls up. He's got one arm on the open window. Sort of leans out, looks down the street, sees the two of you, and he's like, "You call for a ride?
Yep.
All right, get in. Where to?"
Well, you should know. Use the app.
He says,
Come on, man.
he says, all right, Aaron, no need to be like that. I'm just trying to be, a bit friendly. I'm just trying to get that 5-star rating on Uber.
I just.
He's like, and
Okay,
he holds up like, takes his phone out of like one of those little holders like you stick on the windscreen, and he lifts it up and he says, "Yeah, I know you're going to the hospital. I was just trying to get a bit of friendly banter going, you know."
Cool. I'll just give you a 5-star rating right now.
Oh, nice one, appreciate it. He's like, yeah, hop in.
All right, I get in.
You get in the car. You head through the streets. I'll make a quick roll to see if anything interesting happens on the way there.
So this is Uber, right? So just to make sure, it's not like dude's driving an official cab because it's Uber.
Yep.
Still, does he have cameras pointing at the back seat?
He doesn't appear to have, no.
Okay, good.
You can see, like, as you sort of like peer over in his car, he's got one of those sort of like rear, like reversing, like parking cameras, you know, with a little screen on his car, but he doesn't actually appear to have any cameras in the car.
Yeah. Okay.
So you head through the streets, a few red lights on the way, but nothing untoward. He pulls up outside the hospital near the accident and emergency department. You can see a couple of ambulances parked nearby. You can see the big sort of like plexiglass, like double doors, like automatic doors of Barking and Dagenham General. And he's like, there you go. He's like, don't forget that 5-star rating.
Right, I'll do it right now.
He's like, oh, nice one, appreciate it.
5-star rating.
He's like, you like a little like ding on his phone. He's like, oh, nice one, thanks very much. You have a good evening now.
You too. If he doesn't give me a 5-star rating, I'm going to be pissed.
He'll put in a 4. It's like, God damn it.
You get out of the car, it slowly pulls away and like drives off down the street, and you can see the sort of interior lighting of the hospital shining through the like double doors. There's a few people sort of like milling around outside. There's obviously like ambulances coming in and like people being like taken on like gurneys and stretchers and whatnot, like into like the A&E entrance rather than the main entrance. No one really pays you any particular mind. There's like people going in and out of like the main entrance of the hospital.
Right.
Okay.
How do we...
I can probably get in. But do we want to try and do this legit or on the sly? We can probably source a couple of scrubs. It's not a problem. They're not really high security items as such. There's bound to be quite easy access to them once I get in. So if we want to, we could try and go in as nurses.
I guess. No, can't we just pretend to be relatives?
We can, yes. It's probably better if you talk to them. I can be the cousin from France.
From what?
Français.
Okay. This is my cousin Jacques. He doesn't speak any English. All right, got it. Um,
Oh, I know. Well, yeah, I guess let's just go with uh with the um with the relative angle in that we're from out of town and we just saw the news. We weren't informed previously, so we're driving up now in the dead of night.
right. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So cover names. What's
Yeah, I'll
the
be safe.
and I'll be Adrian.
All right. Perfect.
We're we're the dumbest buddy anti cop um duo.
Okay, so what's the plan, guys?
Okay, I'm just gonna walk to the reception
Yep.
and
You
say
walk.
that. Yeah. I'm just gonna say, hey, we're relatives of Carmen Fletcher. We heard that she was hospitalized. Um,
Okay, so you walk in, the automatic doors open. As you get in, you can see there's like a color line scheme where there's like lines of different colors sort of drawn on the floor, and there's a sign sort of showing that each of the different colored lines leads to a different department. You know, X-ray, cardiology, stuff like that. And you can see just to the right of the main door as you walk in, there's like a semicircular desk, which is
yeah.
the reception desk, and then there's like basically like a small gift shop next to it. You walk up to the desk, you say, "Oh, yeah, we're relatives of Carmen Fletcher." The young woman wearing a nurse's outfit from behind the desk says, "All right, Kate, just give me a moment." She turns to a computer and like types on a computer, and then she says, "Oh, I'm afraid Miss Fletcher's condition is quite serious. She's not allowed any visitors at the moment. I'm very sorry. If I can take your details, I can contact you when and if that changes."
Um,
I'm
sure.
afraid it would. We would only be allowed spousal visits at the moment, and then only for a brief period of time.
Um, sure. I can give you details. So, what's wrong with her?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not at liberty to give out patient information.
Yeah, I don't understand. You said it was serious. Um.
Okay, this is sounding like some sort of social role to me.
Oh God.
Oh, imagine rolling for those.
Indeed.
That sounds terrible.
So I would suggest you could maybe use subterfuge, persuasion.
Subterfuge manipulation.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. She looks a little bit concerned that you're obviously becoming emotional and upset. And she takes out from under the sort of desk like a box of tissues and like sort of slides them towards you. Then in like a bit of a softer voice, she said, "Yeah, look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but we think that she'll pull through and she'll be fine. So you don't need to worry. I can't really say any more, patient confidentiality and all that, but I'm sure it's nothing you need to worry about. She just needs to get lots of rest, and the doctors have been with her. I'm sure she'll be fine, but she can't have any visitors at the moment. I'm really sorry."
Okay. Um, I pretend that like her soothing words have just calmed me down, so she can feel like she did a good job dealing with the situation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So you think she'll pull through? Like how. Yeah. And I guess how soon do you think?
She says, "Well, I shouldn't think it'd be more than a week or two. She's on antibiotics and she's being given the best of care. I'm sure she'll be fine in a week or two. I can't really say any more, I'm afraid. But
Okay,
like I say,
and
if I can take your details, we can contact you as soon as she's able to have visitors.
okay, yeah, sure. I like write down, but like I'm pretending to give her like some actual details, but I'm not.
You're just giving her
I'm
like
just writing.
some fake rubbish details.
Yeah, like 555 is the phone number. It's 123 Fake Street.
Yeah,
Um,
no problems.
but I also has there been? This might sound like an odd question, but have you had any like? Were there any like abnormalities? Like, do you have a complete like medical history that you need?
At which point she says, abnormalities. No, no, I don't think so. And when she says this, you get the idea that she's not being entirely truthful with you, Adrian.
Oh, well, forget I said anything. I say,
Her face sort of, she's like chatting away, and then her face, and her hand like drops down for a few moments, like as her eyes sort of glaze over for a few seconds. Then she looks at you and says, "So as I've told you, we can't really allow any visitors in. But if you give me your details, I can contact
sure.
you as soon as she's able to have
Well,
visitors."
well yeah. Here's the details. We'll hopefully you can get in touch with us soon.
She takes them off you and says, "Oh, not a problem. I'll just enter them into the system, and I'll flag it to contact you as soon as you can have visitors." She's like talking to you while she's like typing, and you can obviously see her
Yeah,
putting in the like fake details you've given her into like their system.
yeah. They're gonna have fake information. Okay. Well, thanks.
Not a problem. And she sort of like she leans over and she sort of very gently in a sort of like a comforting manner like puts a hand on your arm and then says, I'm sure it's nothing you need to worry about."
Well, that's good to hear. Um, I like walk away with Sif, and I'm like, "Did you hear that? I think she was lying about the abnormalities."
Hmm. The question is, what are we going to do about it now?
Do you think there's a point trying to see her anyway?
Probably. Um, there's a risk, though, obviously.
Yeah. Hmm. I'm not sure.
Um, John, what would be the wards be like in this particular hospital? What I'm specifically thinking about is if we go to X ward and there's like rooms for people who are currently receiving care there, who are going to be staying for a bit, like we think she is.
Yeah.
If we go there, would there be and like Seth can just go and look around to establish this, but would there be like a room for this particular corridor? There's the people who handle the patients here. Is there a room? And I'm picturing this because I've seen this in hospitals that I've been to. There's a room where the staff do all of their shit,
Yeah, like an
and
admin
it
room.
yeah, and it has the big board with fucking names and shit on it, where
There
because
most certainly would be. Yeah.
they write them in and like wipe them out as people come and go.
Yep.
So so Adrian, if I have a
Mhm.
quick look and I try to locate the room, we might try and have a quick peek, whether it's going outside and trying to see from the outside, or if we just wander into the ward and happen to take the wrong door for a bit before we're ushered out of the
Right.
room. Do you want to do that? There's no
I
telling
think
what's going to be in the room, right? That's just we don't know.
yeah, I say we do it.
Do it inside or outside.
Uh,
I can probably figure out the room where she is, but
and I'll leave this part up to you. I had to do the talking.
okay. So, John, I guess what we're doing next is going ward by ward,
Okay.
and point being, Seth is trying to figure out the ward where our patient here is located
Okay.
as smoothly as possible.
Okay, in which case, make me a wits investigation roll. Now, this isn't to see whether you find her or not, 'cause you will eventually find her. It's to see how long it takes you.
Yeah. Investigation. Wits. Okay, 2 successes.
Okay, yeah, so it takes you about half an hour of wandering around, but you do eventually find your way to the correct ward. As you head into the ward, you can see that there's a main sort of thoroughfare down the middle. There's various beds with some curtains pulled around them. There's another sort of almost little reception desk where there's sort of the duty nurse is logging everyone in. As you say, you can see the staff room off to the side with a number of lockers in it, and as you've said, a big board sort of up on the wall where they can sort of manually track patient details, put notes about their meds, stuff like that.
Yeah.
A few of the sort of cubicles, for want of a better term, that are sort of open. They haven't got the curtains drawn. You see there's various people, relatives, etc., sat around the beds. You see there's, on each of the foots of each of the bed, there's a clipboard with the patient notes on it and a bulldog clip. You see a couple of sort of young doctors walking around, sort of occasionally lifting up one of the clipboards, checking the notes, administering medication, etc., to the patients. All the normal stuff you'd expect to see in a hospital. You basically, in order to assure yourself this is the right ward, you've had a surreptitious peep into the room, and you've seen Carmen Fletcher's name on the board. Mm-hmm. But you can't see her as you look around, so you perhaps surmise that maybe she's in one of the sort of beds with the curtains drawn around it.
Yeah. So what I will want to do is, once I've established sort of where she is, I want to go into the lobby, get some coins out, and go to a vending machine of some kind, get a drink. If there's sandwiches, get a sandwich.
Yeah, that's fine.
So I'll get a bottle of water and one of those really gross vending machine.
Yeah, you get one of those pre-packaged sort of plastic container sort of sweaty cheese sandwiches.
Yeah, it's been there for too long.
Yeah,
it's the thing. So I'll get one of those and I'll give Adrian the nod to sort of be around. The plan being, I'm gonna go check and then I'll come back to Adrian to see what we can do. So I'll go in with my props and I'll go in there and I'll hold them in hand, and because there's the beds with the curtains.
Yep.
I'll start from the back, the furthest away from the door. I'll start there and sort of part the curtains with the bottle.
Okay, so you make your way down. You peer in a few. There's people asleep in the bed. You're oh, that's not her. That's not her. And you're sort of working your way down. You get to the fourth sort of bed down. You open the curtains. You look in. There's an elderly, quite frail looking woman, sort of sat up in a bed. Pillars propping up behind her. She's got an IV coming from her arm. Quite clearly not Carmen Fletcher. But when you open the curtain, she's like, "Oh, grandson, you've come to see me. I knew you'd turn up eventually." And she starts trying to sort of lift herself up a bit, but she's quite frail, so she's like,
Yeah. I was like, shh, shh, shh. I brought you the bread, and I'll.
She's like,
I'll
oh,
hold up.
Johnny, it's so good to see you.
Yeah,
I thought you'd forgotten your old grandma.
I'll make her take the bread, and then I will close the curtains.
She takes off you, and Adrian, as you're sort of like lurking around, as Seth sort of like shuts these curtains, sort of backs out, no longer holding the water bottle and the sandwich. You hear like a frail voice from inside saying, "Jeez, my favourite. How did you know?"
Okay.
And you,
Okay, I will continue my investigations.
okay, you. After a couple more tries, you again open the curtain and you can see, sort of lying in the bed, covers pulled up. There is a woman, a sort of face turned to the side, like brown hair sort of over her face. Again, IV line as like one of those monitors monitoring vital signs. And you can see on the foot of the bed is one of these patient note charts that has the name Carmen Fletcher written at the top in barely legible doctor's handwriting.
Not moving.
She doesn't appear to be. It looks as though she's asleep, like she's sort of like curled up, like her hair over her face. Like,
Is there movement? As if breathing?
as you look, you can see her chest sort of rising and falling, and you can see like the vital, the sort of monitor of her vital statistics is like showing like a steady heartbeat.
If I lift one of the wires, does it actually go to the person?
It does indeed, and you can hear the very faint sort of like, doot, 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 and you see like a couple of flashing lights that sort of seem to like pulse rhythmically in time with the heartbeat that's sort of going on the screen.
All right. So I'll get the clipboard. Is there anything on it that I might be able to decipher as far as what's going on?
Make me an intelligence medicine roll.
Oh, I closed my sheet. Okay. Intelligence, is that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm actually going to re-roll the one die that I can with my willpower there. Let's willpower re-roll. Re-roll one die. Okay, yeah, still one.
Okay, so you look at it and the handwriting's atrocious on it. I mean, even the name's barely legible, and obviously it's written in sort of like doctor's shorthand, and it refers to a lot of stuff that you really don't understand. The most you can work out is that she has some sort of blood-based infection, and they're administering like antibiotics and general low-level medication to sort of bring down a fever. At least you think that's what it's saying.
Okay. Yeah, I'll put the clipboard back on and go talk to Adrian.
Okay.
So, point number one, person there, alive. Point number two, some sort of blood. There's an infection and they're treating her with antibiotics, trying to bring a fever down.
Okay.
Something to do with the blood. I wouldn't know what that might be, but
Would that work on a...
I don't think it would. Also, I don't think if you were unconscious on the ground, you know, I could tell it was you and not someone who was in a different condition. And she is taking in air.
And I mean, you certainly know from the evidence of your own kindred bodies that unless you force it, you don't have a heartbeat. I mean, you can easily just like and check that. And you know that when you tried to convince Amanda Knight that she was a vampire when she was first embraced, one of the ways you did that was by saying, check your pulse, you don't have a heartbeat.
Interesting. Okay. So she might be a thin blood. I kind of like pause because I'm not actually sure.
Okay, so what does that mean for us then?
I think it means that we still need to get them out because this is still a potential masquerade violation.
Mm.
Um, I think I should feed them some of my blood. Hopefully that will help them get better.
Right. I guess it
Um,
would. If they're going in for tests, though, it probably doesn't help with the blood work that they're going to do after she sits up and says everything's okay.
uh, but still, they'll eventually discover some abnormalities.
Yeah, they will. They probably have, because they
Yeah,
will have taken blood when she came in. So.
I think that nurse knew and wasn't telling us.
So, do we maneuver her out of here?
Um, I don't know. I kind of want to see if I can get her to regain consciousness first.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll see if I can like sneak over and like feed her. Like, do I just take like a hunger level automatically if I do that?
You can make a rouse roll if you're trying to feed her like a substantial amount of blood.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
just to clarify, you've made the roll, that's fine. Sneaking over there, not a problem. Everyone's busy, no one's paying you particular mind. How do you actually plan to go about like getting your blood into her, basically?
Um, I will basically cut like cut like my hand or finger open and kind of like let it drip inside of her
Okay, so
mouth.
when you head into, you sort of pull back the curtain and slip inside, shutting it behind you. You see, as I've said, sort of like facing away from you is this woman, appears to be asleep. She's like lying there, sheets pulled up, hair over her face. You can see the heart monitor, the IV, etc., as I've described previously, sort of
Oh,
beeping away.
oh, can I say I look at her chart first?
Yeah, you pick up the clipboard from the end of the bed. Again, you'll have to make an intelligence medicine roll if you want to figure out anything from it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to figure out anything too technical.
What
Can
is
I
it?
use
What is your
intel?
aim?
I just want to know if she's like, if she's just like regular asleep or like she's like kind of under, like, because presumably if she was like on drugs or like was like really weak, I could do what I'm trying to do with the blood. But I feel like if she was just normally like asleep, she would definitely wake up and probably freak out, and I can probably just explain to her what's going on in that case.
Okay, yeah, I'll say you don't need to worry about a roll for that. As you sort of check the chart, you see that there's no signs of her being on like any sedation or anything like that. So it just says like antibiotics. So some of the medication you can make out might cause a bit of drowsiness, but she's not like been knocked out or sedated. So you might assume she's just asleep. I mean,
All right,
it is the evening.
I'll wake her up.
Are you just like shaking her, or
Yeah, yeah. Well,
okay?
slightly.
You walk over.
I'm not like.
You no, you just walk over and like gently like shake her shoulder. The woman in the bed sort of like turns around, looks at you. She looks a bit groggy, and as her hair falls away from her face, you can see that it is not Carmen Fletcher.
What?
It's a young woman who looks slightly similar to her, similar sort of build, similar-ish facial features and similar coloured hair, but it's quite clearly not the person you met previously. She looks up at you blearily and she's like, sorry, are you one of the doctors?
Yes, sir. Sorry, are you Carmen Fletcher?
Yeah, that's right.
The same one who worked at,
The Gable Court care home. Yeah,
yes.
that's me, yeah.
Forgive me, but we met briefly. Do you, while you were there, do you remember me?
Oh, sorry, no, I
Uh,
don't really remember they've got me on medication. Everything's a bit fuzzy.
okay. I please try to get some more sleep. I like step.
I'm quite tired.
Yeah, I step back and to Seth, I'm like, that's not her.
Do you think she's trying to pull a disappearing act?
Possibly.
Make me a wits awareness roll, Adrian. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I have no idea. So
People are moving around doing their normal business. The hospital, life in the hospital, sort of carrying on around you as you're stood there discussing this. No one's paying you particular mind because they're assuming you're just visitors or whatever.
So maybe, I don't know, various possibilities. Maybe I never really met. I didn't meet the real Carmen Fletcher. Maybe this person's a fake. No, or maybe this person's part of like I don't know, Carmen's cover. This is how they keep hidden and having immortal duplicates.
Well, that seems plausible. Yeah.
I don't know what to.
I guess we'll leave and we go see her.
As you're saying that, you see sort of like the door to like the ward you're in opens, and you see three sort of fairly sort of athletic, quite sort of like heavily built men wearing smart suits sort of walk into the ward. You see one of them walk over to the nurse on reception, sort of like show her something, and then they have like a bit of an exchange, and you see the nurse like leans over and like points towards the two of you.
Yes, a universally good sign.
At which point the three men in suits start like walking, like not running but like walking quickly towards you.
We should probably get going.
That's true. All right. Is there an exit other than past these guys?
Yeah, there's an exit sort of past them, and there's like another exit at the far end. I mean, you'd have to go through like some of the other hospital to like get out, but
yeah. So I propose, Adrian, we head that way, since they're coming from that way.
okay. At this point, Adrian, can you please roll me a single D10? If you get 1 to 5, what I'm about to say affects Seth, otherwise it's yourself. Okay, so Seth, can you please make me a Dex Athletics roll? Okay, so as you guys are sort of like turn around, you're like heading away from these men in suits, and you hear him sort of like shouting like "Hey!" and sort of like speeding up a bit, like jogging to like catch you up. As you're going past the sort of bed that had Carmen Fletcher in it, the curtains suddenly like burst open, and the same woman, still wearing like the sort of the gown, like the hospital gown, basically leaps out and tries to like tackle Seth to the ground, just like bodily like tackle him to the ground. However, you caught a twitch of the curtains moving Seth, so as she leaps out, you're able to like skirt round her, and you see her sort of like she sort of lands on the floor and starts picking herself up. You can see that looking at her face now, she's obviously not dazed nor confused.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. Was this a sting? Alright, let's get out of here.
Mm-hmm. So, what's our friend doing now that she's off the bed and missed?
She's basically sort of like picking herself up. You see her turn around and she nods at the three men who are like running up, who are now like actually running. And I'm just going to have a look, see if there's any sort of specific chase mechanics in a New World of Darkness.
Let me think. I seem to...
Because I'm sure I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah, me too.
The thing I'm thinking of is it the PDF only, or is it in the book as well? I'm trying to search the PDF. In a very simple form, we could do the extended action thing where you accrue successes.
Yeah, I suggest that we go with that. So, again, it's probably going to be a strength athletics this time. So obviously you're trying to sort of run away from them. So if you both want to make me a strength athletics roll, and then I'll make one for them.
Okay, here we go. I found a thing called Pursuit.
All right, okay, go ahead.
In the book. So, a foot pursuit contest uses athletics for the skill. Attribute in a foot pursuit varies depending on the type of chase. Long marathon might use stamina, sprint, strength. So I guess sprint then.
Yeah. Because you're just trying to like get away from these guys.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Athletics. Oh shit. Mr. Big roller over here.
And does it say in the pursuit you have to accrue a specific amount of successes to get away, or?
Let's see. Players that want more drama from a chase can run it as a conflict where the combatants inflict damage on each other. Okay, so that's sort of like tossing things in front of each other, I guess. One person may have to pursue. So it could be they're basically talking about a standard versus thing going here, from what I can tell.
Okay, well that's
so
fine.
we contest, they contest, and then whatever is
Okay.
the result. So, it's shit. But here we go. Block.
Okay.
Again, I will re-roll my one extra in a desperate attempt to get some successes here. No. Okay.
Okay. So, Adrian. Are you there, Adrian? Yeah. Okay, so you are basically leaving. These guys are moving pretty fast. You are like leaving them in the dust. You are like sprinting away. You're like, no problems. We're going to make it. We're going to get out of it. Then you look back and you see that although you're like sprinting and you're obviously like, you're used to this sort of like work and you're running away, you can see that like Seth has fallen like far behind you, and these like three suited figures and this person who perhaps is posing as Carmen Fletcher are like pretty much on him. They're just about to like catch him. But since you're so far ahead and you're like so much quicker, you've got a chance to act before they sort of like pounce on him.
Oh god. Okay, yeah, I'm just gonna... There are three of them, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, I'm gonna...
Well, four if you count the woman. There's three suits on the woman.
Yeah, I'm gonna go back. Yeah, I'm gonna go back for Seth.
Okay, yeah. So you sort of screech to a halt and start turning around and heading back. Now, Seth, as they're approaching towards you, it strikes you that these three men and this woman are, as Adrian sort of guessed, they're behaving in the sort of like the textbook way you would expect an Operation Antigen sting to take place. Obviously, since you're familiar with the tactical dossier of Operation Antigen. So, if you wish, you could potentially use your Operation Antigen playbook here.
I believe that's a one thing use though. One use only thing.
Indeed, the tactical dossier allows you to, during a scene that involves them, you can use the contents to predict and outwit their behaviour. If the outcome of the scene results in Antigen being aware they've been outmanoeuvred, then they will change their operating methods and the dossier will become useless.
Okay, so I need to, if I want to retain the dossier advantage, I need to make it seem like it was pure luck that I...
Exactly, yeah. If they're sort of like, oh, he knew our operating procedure, they will change their operating procedure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And as you're sort of like, obviously very rapidly, but you're sort of quickly working this through using like your tactical brain, you quickly sort of think, obviously, however Antigen's involved in this, they obviously know that perhaps other kindred might have come to like check on this Carmen Fletcher, and they've had like an agent posing as her, who presumably once Adrian left, like contacted some of their agents nearby and sort of call them in to like tighten the noose.
But the thing is, we're in a chase here.
Indeed. Well, I'll tell you what, to give you a bit of time to think about it, why don't we have our like 5-minute refreshment break here to go and use the facilities, grab a drink, etc. and then we'll pick up with
Yeah,
you sort of
okay.
doing your actions when we get back.
Yep.
All right, sounds good.
Okay, so we'll be back in 5 minutes.
I keep fucking up the hospital. Is the thing.
Yeah, I've got to admit, hospitals don't seem to be a great place for you guys.
No, it's been a bad idea every time. And Carmen apparently has dropped the ball entirely. So we're gonna need to like have a chat.
Okay, so have you had any thoughts about what Seth's going to do?
Yeah, I think the main problem here is that I guess if we want to look at the dossier, actually, let me pull it up.
Well, I've got the description here. If you
okay,
need
yeah, please.
Okay, so it says you have acquired or have been leaked a dossier which discusses typical antigen operating procedures, covering surveillance protocols, how to plan raids, and tactical advice for engaging with ICOs. During a scene which involves Operation Antigen, you can use the contents of this dossier to predict and outwit their behaviour. If the outcome of the scene results in Antigen being aware they've been outmanoeuvred, i.e. their agents are killed or their mission objectives are thwarted, then they will change their operating procedures and the dossier will become useless.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of... It's not really connected, but something that just came to mind. Given that it's the kind of thing that can expire pretty easily as well. But it is a setting thing, like it's a fact inside the world.
Yeah.
So hypothetical, and this is not just for this, but for other shit as well of similar nature. If we have something that is expendable somehow, and you do the thing, you expend the thing, fine, you take it off. If you then pursue the new thing, i.e. the new information, the new protocols,
yeah,
can we like rebuy the thing? If
yeah,
you manage to acquire
if you manage to acquire like a new dossier, then I don't see why not.
This came to mind, like, oh, that's probably something that like would be of interest to Seth specifically. If he figures out that his intel is wrong or old, like he might try.
Like say you've got like the current dossier. If like you were then aware that like because you'd know that once they found out they'd been rumbled, you'd know they would change their procedures. If you could then go out and somehow get hold of a copy of the new procedures, then you would effectively get that back.
Yeah. So the thing that I was thinking is, it's somewhat limited now because we're in a chase which I'm not like making a great headway here because I didn't get a great role there.
I would say one possible way you could use it if you want to is that you would know that obviously rather like yourselves, Antigen are supposed to sort of like limit their exposure. They're a clandestine organisation, so you would know that if you were able to somehow sort of make it so the risk of them exposing themselves and sort of like outing themselves to the public was great, if they sort of carried on pursuing you, they would probably break off thinking, well, we can try and track you down again later, rather than like risk sort of like capturing you and exposing their organisation.
Yeah.
I mean, you assume that the suits who came in and sort of showed the woman something, they're like posing as some sort of like law enforcement or whatever. So at the minute, they can justify it as like, oh yeah, we were just chasing down this person who's wanted for questioning or whatever. That doesn't immediately scream Operation Antigen. But like, if it got to the point where they're like, it's become too risky for us to pursue this person, they would probably break off and regroup, because like obviously the organisation's more important than one person.
Yeah, I think, well, it's entirely like just how much leeway I actually have in the situation, but Seth might want to lead them to a place where he could set off a catastrophic failure sequence in, I don't know, like volatile gas of some kind. Basically using what we just discussed as a sort of like, yeah, you can try and take me, however, I will hurt this hospital and the people here.
Well, I'd say you've got a fair amount of leeway because your dossier, if you're using it, just allows you to like use your knowledge to avoid them. You don't have to roll for it. It's just like you spend the dossier, you do it.
Basically, and this is one of the great things, by the way, about V5, because it has these elements, which is basically like you include elements from the setting. You just toss them in and make them real. Because it's not a big hospital in itself.
No. You know that they would have like gas tanks and stuff like that, though. For
in the lower levels. So let's say I
I'll say, obviously, remember that Adrian's got a fair amount of maneuverability because he's winning the chase. So you could sort of take that into account with whatever you're planning.
I think there's two things here. So first is I want to head towards where the electricity, like whatever the word for that is,
like the generator.
Yeah, the generators for the hospital. Like head there. Idea being, all of them might follow me. Some of them might follow Adrian, but either way, someone's going to follow me, and I don't exactly know how they. Or I guess I do. So what I do is, I guess the priority for them would be to acquire the targets, i.e., us.
Yeah.
Alive or dead, because they want more intel. Because they have now burned through basically their entire stack of intel in the previous years, just destroying all the targets.
You would know that they're clearly not sort of just trying to like terminate you as a clear and present danger, because otherwise they would have already tried it. They wouldn't just be trying to like chase you down.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't do that in such a public setting anyway.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm going to do is I'll lead them down into the maintenance with the idea of presenting the weaker of the targets. So Adrian, he's making great like they will have to sprint and to get him. Meanwhile, over here, easier target, who also represents himself quite poorly by like tumbling things over while he's running and like just yelling like, "Oh my god!" and making a huge sort of scene about how frightened and in a panic he's fleeing, and I'm basically leading myself into a dead end in the generation room for the hospital.
Okay, so since you're spending your dossier, in the chaos you're creating, obviously like the doctors and the people around are trying to find out what's going on because you're like shrieking and falling about all over the place, and the antigen agents are having to like they're basically like showing their credentials and saying, "No, it's a police matter, nothing to panic about." So that's slowing them down a bit because obviously they're having to do a bit of damage limitation as well as trying to catch up with you. So you manage to make it to the generator room effectively, sort of like just ahead of them. Now, have you tried to signal to Adrian this is what you're doing? So obviously he's like up ahead.
I don't think I can even, because he made it away, and my whole thing is I want to lead them after me. So it's probably a case of Adrian like, "Oh shit, we need to go," and he's going, and I can't keep up, so I'll divert, and Adrian probably finds himself alone.
Okay, so Adrian, make me a wits awareness roll.
Okay. So I keep looking like, oh, do I have awareness? No, I do not. Nah.
Okay, so you're sort of like sprinting up ahead. You glance over your shoulder. You see that like they're almost on Seth, and you're like you screech to a halt. You turn round, and you see that they appear to have like they've all disappeared down one of like the side corridors, and you can just see like a few people sort of stood around looking confused. So you're not really sure where they've gone, but they've obviously like zipped off down one of the side corridors, perhaps into one of the other wards. In the mean,
Seth used magic.
could be.
He literally joined the Mystics coterie just recently.
Okay, so Seth, you've made it to the generator room. These guys are like maybe like 15 foot behind you, if that.
Mm-hmm.
You've sort of like flung open the door. You can see inside. It's quite an old sort of generator. You can hear it sort of humming away, and there's like a clanking noise from it. You can see a lot of the wires and pipes and whatnot coming from it that feed power to the rest of the hospital. You suspect, looking at the size, I mean, you know, like technical master, but looking at the size of the generator, you suspect that this probably isn't the only one the hospital has got, so it probably only supplies power to like a portion of the hospital.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I get in, yeah, throw open the door, close it.
Yeah,
They
that's
know
fine.
where I am because shitloads of noise in slamming the doors open and closed. Shadow cloak, corner, uh, trying to be invisible when they come in.
Okay, make your stealth roll.
Stealth and okay, 3.
Okay, so you slink into a corner, pulling the shadows around yourself, using the noise and the clanking of the generator to sort of mask any sounds you might be making. You see the doors flung open, these 3 men in suits and this woman still wearing a gown. Although you can see now she's not got like the sheets pulled up around her, that she's actually wearing like sort of fairly like plain like clothes, like jogging bottoms and a t-shirt underneath the gown. They burst into the room. You see a couple of the suited guys pull out pistols from like shoulder holsters under their jackets, and they're like, they look around the room, and then one of them looks back at the woman and he says, I swear I saw him come in here. The woman walks in. She starts like looking around the room, and she probably like passes within like a few feet of you, but her eyes like slide over you as you're sort of like wrapped yourself in shadow. She reaches down into the pocket of like a jogging bottoms and takes out what appears to be like a walkie-talkie, effectively, and she says, "This is Thompson. We've lost the target." And you can hear like a on the other end. She says, yes, I understand. 2 of them, and she gives like a description of both yourself and Adrian. He says, yes, I understand. We lost one of them in the corridor. He was at the hospital. He was too fast for us. We had to slow down the pursuit in order to prevent any unfortunate questions. We managed to follow one of the blank bodies to the generator room, but we've lost him in here. Perhaps some form of supernatural influence has been used to allow him to evade us. Yes, I understand. And she like puts the walkie-talkie back in her pocket, turns to the 3 men and says, "We've been recalled. Fall back," and they leave.
If only there were fewer of them, which is to say, like, if it was just the one person, it would have been bad times in the generation room.
That's it. You see, there they know they're hunting vampires, and like in a numbers game, one human against one vampire doesn't work out well for the human.
No, it works really bad. Okay, so that was very lucky because like Seth's whole like backup plan was basically then be like, oh well, like you can start shit if you want, but there's gonna be some machines that will not be working in the hospital. Like if you throw down here, because I'm gonna rip out all the machinery here.
Okay.
But that didn't happen.
So that they have left. So while that's going on, Adrian, what are you up to?
I will have, if I can, I will leave the hospital.
Yeah, that's fine. One of the advantages of like Seth drawing them away is like they don't know where you are. You left them in the dust, so you're home free as far as that's concerned. You can just stroll out of one of the many exits of the hospital.
Yeah. I'm going to be. I'm not going to leave the area around the hospital. I'm going to essentially wait out, like find some place to like sort of hide and like wait out until I see Seth leave.
Okay, no problem. So you sort of station yourself because there's obviously like trees and bushes and places for cars to park and whatnot around the hospital. So you sort of like secrete yourself by one of these trees, and as you're watching, so probably about 15 minutes later, you see the three men in suits leaving with the woman who's now like got rid of the gown. She's just wearing like a plain grey t-shirt and like black jogging bottoms. They walk out. You see a dark blue car pull up. They get into the car and the car drives off.
Can I take the opportunity to take pictures of those people on my phone,
You most
including the
certainly
car license plate?
You can indeed.
Oh boy. Surprise tool that I'll use later.
Yeah, I wish I could use a phone to take pictures. Shit.
One day you can.
Yeah, I'll have to get like the actual like old timey cameras with the
Yeah.
The Polaroid? Oh no, even older.
They're the old timey ones. Like the OG photographs.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a better idea. You get them to stand still for a few hours.
What you really need to do is like get celerity and then train as like a portrait artist.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like
Just like pull out a pad and be like.
yep.
Okay,
Yeah,
so Seth, you wait for about 10-15 minutes. You've heard their footfalls heading down the corridor. You've not heard or seen any sign of them reappearing.
I'm gonna try and stalk my way out of the hospital.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah.
You stealthily make your way out of the hospital. Are you trying to like conceal yourself as you leave?
Yeah.
Okay, make me another dex stealth roll.
It's a shitty day, so
Okay, so as you're leaving the hospital, presumably like keeping to the shadows and like wrapping the shadows around
as much as possible.
Yeah, you slink out into the darkness of the night unseen by human gaze. And as you're making your way out, so as you're sort of circling round to the front of the hospital, you spot Adrian sort of like lurking by one of the trees nearby the main entrance, but he doesn't appear to have seen you, obviously because you're shrouded in shadow.
Yeah. I would get relatively close, get rid of the shadow cloak, and just sort of like plainly walk, i.e., make noise, so that Adrian can have time to look and see.
Yeah, so a a short distance away from you, Adrian, a patch of inky darkness seems to solidify into the form of Seth, who quickly looks around and seeing no one obviously watching him or about to jump on him, calmly walks towards you.
What happened?
I think I managed to avoid them inside the hospital. I was very fortunate. I thought I might have to actually engage with them, but it went down better than I hoped. No bodies. The woman was Thompson. I don't know if that's a real name, but
Well, I got some images of them.
so the thing to take away from this is our friend has, I believe the expression is, screwed the pooch here. They obviously know about her now.
Is Carmen alive?
Yeah, that's the thing. Is Carmen alive? Have they taken her? Their case, they know enough about her to use her as a lure. So let's look at Carmen and see what's going on there. It would be really interesting to find Carmen alive. I do the quotation marks, alive and well, while this is happening.
Sure. I might call the place that she works at and see what's going on there.
All right. Yeah, we can do it on the way.
Sure.
Do we know where she resides?
I only know where she works. I don't know if she.
Okay, let's go there then. I guess let's call first and then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'll call and I'll basically ask if
Okay, so you've got the number. You ring the number, and a voice says, "Hello, Gable Court Care Home."
Yeah. Sorry, I was wondering if I could speak to one of your workers, Carmen Fletcher.
Oh, I'm afraid Miss Fletcher's ill. She's currently off sick. Is there anyone else who can help you?
Oh, sorry, no. I was just trying to reach her. No, I'll just try via someone else then. Sorry. Thank you for your time.
Oh, no problem at all.
Yeah, I hang up and I'm like, oh no, she's dead. They definitely killed her and just set this thing up.
So what's the plan, guys?
Do you want to go to my place and find a token or something?
I guess, yeah. I wish that one night we wouldn't have 16 different fires to put out. There's
Yeah,
some we haven't even addressed tonight. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think on average we only put out 16 fires a night every few weeks or something.
Yeah.
Not that makes anyone feel better.
Okay. Yeah, let's go find I don't know what, something Alex would feel strongly about, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Okay, so where are you guys planning to head?
To my ancestral home.
The mansion. of madness.
Okay, so you're heading to the quaintly named Resnick murder house.
Oh,
The skin parlor.
Indeed. So as
will you
you
buy all the skin?
as you arrive at the dilapidated Resnick family home, as was, you can see there's still the sort of like metal, like sort of wire security gate around it. However, you can now see that whereas previously there was a sort of sign on it, you see there's now a new sign on it that says under development, London Tourist Board.
That looks like it's going to be in bad taste.
I think Seth just lets out the longest sigh of his life.
Yeah, you and me both, buddy.
Oh boy. Let's hope they haven't torn the place up though.
Okay, you can see that from the look of it from the outside, whatever development is going to be taking place here doesn't appear to have started yet. Like the house is very much as you left it previously. Okay, so as you're approaching the building, you see like a man. You hear like a voice going like, "Hey, hey," and like a man wearing like a fairly sort of like dirty overcoat and like a sort of beanie hat. He stood there and he's like, "Hey."
Hello.
He's like, "Oh, you interested in the old murder house, are you?"
Yes.
He says, "Oh well, if you're interested in that, I've got something you'll definitely be interested in." He's like, and he sort of gestures to like a little side street. He's like, "Come on, I'll show you."
I look at Seth quizzically.
I mean, lightning cannot possibly strike twice the same night, can it, Adrian?
No, who knows?
I'm just letting you know if it does, it's not going to be good.
This fella sort of takes you to the side street and he wheels out like an old like shopping trolley, like full of like junk and like rubbish, and he like roots around in it, and then he lifts out like a little cardboard box sort of about that size. It's like shakes it a bit. You can hear something like small rattling around inside it, and he's like, "Oh yeah, if you're interested in the old murder house," he's like, "You want to be having a look at this?" And he like holds out the box towards you.
So there's like a shoebox with something in it inside?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just... What's in there?
He says, "Oh, it's a genuine piece of murder house memorabilia."
In a box of some Nike shoes.
He's like, "Well, yeah, it's not about the packaging, is it? It's what's in there."
I have a feeling that's the other way around, maybe. Is there a point to why it's a mystery what's in there, my good man?
He says, "Oh, there's no mystery." And he like reaches over and he sort of like opens like the folds on the top of the box, and as you look in, you can see what looks to be some teeth inside the box. He says, "Oh, see them there?" He says, "Well, old Resnick, who used to own the house, he killed his own mother. And these are her teeth. They found them at the scene."
Why do you have them now if they found them at the scene?
He says, "Well, they didn't get all of them." And he said, "Well, times are hard. I went into the building. I scooped up some of what was there." And he says, "You can have them for a tenner."
Times are hard, so you scoop up some teeth.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, haven't you heard? They're going to be turning it into like some sort of tourist attraction. He said, and he says, oh look, fiver and you can have them. They're genuine murder house memorabilia.
Do they actually look like human teeth? Like, are they organic or are they?
They do look like organic teeth, like actual teeth. They're not like plastic
Yeah.
or anything. If you want to know any more, you'd have to make like an intelligence medicine roll.
Yeah, I guess I'll. Yeah, I'm. I'll.
But they're definitely real teeth.
Yeah, that was the main point. But I will roll to see if there's anything that sticks out. Okay, so medicine. Where is it there? One.
They don't look like human teeth to you. They look more like they're like dog's teeth or something similar.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have anything else? Any other body parts you scavenged from the house?
He says, hold on a second, then he starts rummaging around in his trolley. He then takes out what appears to be like a kitchen knife, like a rusty kitchen knife, and he says, "Oh yeah, this is the knife they used to dismember the old girl." Found it down under one of the floor. Adrian, it's not that knife.
Okay.
You would know if it was that knife, and it is not. And he's like, yeah, found it down between a couple of the floorboards. He's like, there's all manner of like grisly shit in there.
No.
He says you can have it for a tenner, and he's like, and it's a blunt ass knife, but he's like gesturing with it.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Okay, Adrian, let me have a word with our friend here. And I'll sort of put a hand on his shoulder and like lead him to the side a bit.
He's like, it's just sort of leading him off. Adrian, you can hear this guy going like, all right, you drive a hard bargain. I'll give you the teeth and the knife for a tenner. Can't say fairer than that, can I?
Yeah.
Genuine memorabilia.
Okay.
It's going to be worth a fortune once the development comes in. And he's like,
we'll get to the knife and that, but what is your name? Your actual real name. I will know if you lie.
He says, it's Ralph Robertson.
Okay, Ralph, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I know you're trying to make your way in the world, and that's fine. Whatever. You're not entirely wrong. It's been a hard couple of years in London. And I can only imagine what you've gone through. I've gone through some terrible things.
He says, I used to work on the underground, but then there was that big explosion and everything. And well, they laid loads of us off, didn't they?
Right. Yeah. So you'd rather get back on that kind of business, right? Instead of.
He says, well, yeah, sure. He says, but
this.
He says, what with the job market being what it is?
Yeah. So I happen to know that they're always looking for a capable hand with fairly minimal required experience and a willingness to learn in a number of public service positions. Now, Ralph, I'm going to need you to listen very carefully. This thing you're doing here, I know why you're doing it, but you need to stop it tonight, and I will help you do that. And I'll reach into my jacket pocket. I'll take out fairly nondescript wallet that I have, and I'll bring out a fairly large stack of bills, mounting up to, let's say,
his eyes widen.
2,500 pounds in bills.
His eyes definitely widen.
Yeah. So I'll take the wad out, and I will open his coat, stick it in his coat pocket inside. I will press it against his chest. Now, Ralph. And I will tell him where to go for local social service slash like Barking Dagenham council admin. And I'll also point him to because police stations have a whole bunch of staff to handle the admin shit. So I'll give him several addresses for where he can approach people for open positions with like low level like data entry. You go there, you handle the paperwork, you stamp things, you file things away. And I'll say to him after giving him like, you go tomorrow to these places and you make sure before you go you get a hotel room with that money tonight. You go there, you have a nice shower, you get the room service to press your clothes. Morning, you go to a copy store. I think they still exist. If not, ask the hotel, they will print your things. You get some kind of a resume. It doesn't need to be your best work. You get something printed out from back when you were applying last time. And you go to one of these places or all of them, you apply for jobs. You had a position at the Metro. You have public credentials in that way. They'll take you in. My point here is you need to stop here right now, tonight. And you need to really do it. That's why I'm giving you a lot more than you currently need to get yourself back on your foot.
He actually looks, as you're saying this, he actually looks like he's like sort of welling up slightly, you know, a couple of like, tears in the corner of his eye. And then he, without warning, he like hugs you.
Yeah,
and then
so I will sort of, I'm a corpse, so I'm kind of stiff anyway, but I'll look like, oh shit, because I need to blush because I haven't today. So I'll get the blush up and I success. So when he goes in for the hug, it's like, oh no, like the warm flush of blood to the surface.
Indeed. So he releases you, and he's like, oh yeah, thank you. I will straight away. Thank you. Like, he sort of stammers as though he doesn't really know what else to say.
Yeah. Okay, Ralph. Now, you know what to do. You're a good man. You have an enterprising spirit. Now, keep your eye on the ball, Ralph.
He turns. He's like, oh, I will. Thank you. And he turns around and heads off.
And I stand in the sort of alleyway where we were attempted to get swindled by this poor fella, and just like stand there for a bit in silence and just shake my head.
Okay, I take it back. That was the most tasted scene I had ever seen.
Adrian, I fucking hate this world sometimes.
And I think as Seth says, I hate this world sometimes, and Adrian's like, sometimes. I think that's where we're going to call a close to this evening's session, guys. And you both get 4 XP.
Okay.
So thank you very much for playing, guys. I hope you enjoyed the session.
Yep, thanks.
As always, I'm fine to chat for a little bit afterwards, but I'm going to end the recording now.